What do highly successful people do every day? We're going to talk about that. And this is so important. So regardless if you're an emerging leader, a manager, a senior leader, maybe you're a professional, maybe you're just starting your career, I'm telling you, this is the starting point. When I do any kind of executive coaching, whether it's an individual or a team, this is one of the first exercises I get people to do. And I talk about it in my book on page 19. So let me kind of give a little bit of, let me just preface it a little bit, okay, in terms of it. I love this little bit. This comes out of a little bit of research from Journal of Personality that found that life satisfaction and positivity increases when people live according to their values, okay? So that's going to be your first question, everybody, is to think about, okay, what are my values? What are the things that are really important to me that I want to be doing every single day? So whether or not that's meditation, spending time with your family, reading, listening to podcasts, spending time with your kids, going for a walk, spending time in nature. Think about, what do you want to do that is really important to you, that is really built on your value system, that you want to make sure you're doing it every single day. And then you design it. You design it. So this is something that I'm seeing over and over again, is that a lot of us, we're very reactive. Okay, we're very reactive. We don't really think. We kind of go to bed at a certain time, we get up at a certain time, and life is very chaotic. And then we wonder why we have so much stress and anxiety. Highly successful people are very intentional. They're very proactive. They think, okay, this is what I want. These are my values, and I'm going to design it. Now I realize, I'm about to share with you, that this model will work very different if somebody is an entrepreneur or a business owner versus someone who's actually a student. Because if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, you have a lot more control over what your middle of the day looks like. But you can still apply a ton of this when I'm working with high school students. I get them to do the same thing. All right, so let's kind of understand the principles, and then we're gonna apply it. Okay, so in my book, this is page 19, The Three Chairs. I start off with sharing about a story about an executive that I was working with who is named Dwayne in the book. That is not his real name, but he is a true person, but that is not his real name. Obviously wanted to protect his just so people don't know actually who he is. So Dwayne's life was not in a good place when I started working with him. He was very reactive, and in many ways, he's like a lot of executives that I work with, is that there's really no plan. They kind of get up, they hit the ground running, and they're kind of racing all throughout the day. Then they get home, they throw up the laptop, they're still working. And when that happens, just think about it logically. People are going to burn out. Marriages suffer, their productivity suffers, their stress skyrockets. And so it doesn't work long-term or really short-term. And if there's one thing that I'm always trying to get leaders, all levels of leaders, to really think about, is the goal is to, how do we increase your performance and your productivity and lower your stress? A lot of people think you can't do it. You can do it, but you've got to be super intentional and very proactive about it. And so I started chatting with Dwayne about what were his values. Okay, so kind of going back to values. What are his values? Well, he valued in terms of the meditation and time with his family. He valued being a great leader. He valued being able to be available for his team. He valued in terms of having strategic time to plan. He valued in terms of having refuel time. So it's like all these pieces were there, but he hadn't properly designed it. He was operating too reactively instead of proactively. And great leaders are proactive. Great leaders take the time to stop and think and reflect, and then they kind of lean into it. All right, so here is how we did it. So the first thing is, I asked him, what are your values? Got him to write it all down. It's like we're creating a puzzle. And then the second part was like, okay, so let's kind of try to design this the best possible way with what we know. And then you kind of design it. And so here's with what we figured out. So he figured out that his morning time, and by the way, his story is like hundreds of other executives that I've coached. It's amazing how people's stories are different, but their solutions are actually quite similar. So he found out that his best time for strategic planning was actually in the early morning. That's like a lot of leaders I work with. And so he decided to redesign his home office. He redesigned his home office so he could kind of get up really early and he could actually start working there. So the first thing he did, and I talk about this in page 19 and 20, is he started his day with 15 minutes of meditation. A lot of highly successful people don't just get up and open up their computer. They get up, they meditate, they go for a walk, they do gratitudes, they do prayer. There's something that centers them, okay? There's something that it's a way to kind of start your day to kind of center you. And so for him, He started with 15 minutes of meditation first thing in the morning, which was amazing. Then 6 to 9 o'clock in his new home office, he focused on strategic planning. And what's powerful about that is that it's 3 hours of high level strategic thinking. Turn off the turn off the Wi-Fi, turn off the phone. You're getting rid of all these external distractions, so he could totally focus in on that work. So that was really important. And in that, he also would take a little break and go and actually have breakfast with his kids. That was actually also one of his big values. So that was really good. And by that time, he's had meditation, he's got strategy, and also he's connected with his kids. So all of a sudden, check. We're now checking off these value systems. So by 9 o'clock, he's already feeling like $1 million. 9 o'clock, then he headed into the office. And again, he would kind of start focusing a little bit more on the team and kind of equipping the team, delegating to the team, making himself available because he wants to be a great leader for his team. 5 o'clock, he shuts down. Now, I know a lot of people are like, Karen, that's not realistic. Think about it though. Again, depending, everybody's job and career obviously is a little bit different, but he started at 6 o'clock. He's already put in 3 hours of very high focused strategic thinking. And the one thing that I often encourage leaders to think about is don't think about hours, think about efficiency. Is it really about kind of like clocking in the hours, or is it what is going to give you the highest quality of work in the most efficient time possible, in really the least amount of time? Try to think about it like that. Because I know for Dwayne, the character Dwayne, he had a hard time thinking about shutting off his computer at 5 o'clock. I'm like, well, let's think about this. You have started at 6 o'clock. You've put in a huge amount of strategy time delegating your team. And so once he thought about the overall picture, he's like, okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. So 5 o'clock, he did what I call a transitional activity. A lot of people can't go from the office right into their work. And so he realized for him that he actually loved doing yoga. And so there was a great yoga studio right by his office. And what was good about it for him is he actually pre-booked the yoga tickets. It kind of helped in terms of his accountability to making sure he does the yoga. So he went there 5 o'clock, did some yoga, and then had dinner with his family 6:30. And then laptop, cell phone is shut off for the evening so that he can get to bed early so that he can actually do the next routine the next day. This routine changed his life. His productivity skyrocketed. His stress plummeted. All of a sudden, his team felt like they had access to him. His marriage significantly improved. His kids are like, wow, you're so much like less stressed, Dad. So it had massive benefits. And it usually takes, what I tell all my clients is just focus on something for 3 days. Just really design it the best that you can. Focus on trying to execute it as best as you can in the first 3 days. And be really disciplined with it. Really focus on bedtime and when you get up. Because if you can focus on bedtime and when you get up, then everything starts kind of falling into place. And just design it, put it to test, put it to trial, and then see what happens. Some parts of the plan are going to work and some are not going to work. And some you're going to have to redesign it. That's okay. But pay attention to the benefits. And what I find why people get totally hooked on it is because it does exactly what it's supposed to, which is it drives that performance and that productivity. It lowers stress. Quality at work tends to go way up. The stress comes down, and the quality of the relationships at home also tends to go up as well. And so it's simple, but super powerful.